Hello, folks, and welcome to the Business of Story. I'm your host, Parker Howell, and I consult, teach, coach, and speak on the power of storytelling to help you and your team excel through the stories you tell. I am also author of the new book, Brand Bewitchery, that teaches you how to wield the story cycle system to craft spellbinding stories for your brand. Michael Houlihan, co-founder of Barefoot Wines, shared his thoughts about Brand Bewitchery recently on Amazon when he wrote, and I quote, "I love the way this book guides you through the process of developing your story. People are more likely to remember and apply principles they learn from stories. So why not learn the mechanics of stories so you can write your own in a way that is compelling, entertaining, and educational? This book is for anyone serious about writing their own story or using story as a way of conveying value." Thanks, Michael, for that great review. I truly appreciate it. Now I ask you, why don't you grab your favorite glass of Barefoot wine and curl up with your own copy of Brand Bewitchery, which you can get now on Amazon or Apple Books. All right, on to today's show. We are going to be talking about the streaming platform Twitch, which I got to admit has made me twitch until our two sons, Caedon and Parker Howell, taught me about this exploding brand storytelling platform. So I asked them to do the same for you right here on The Business of Story.
You got to get over streaming to 1, 2, 3 people for hours. You know, my first month or two of streaming was some days I'd do a whole 6 to 8 hour stream and have one person pop in all day. And that's, after a while, that can get demoralizing.
Right when we were about ready to go, we had our talent lined up. We had everything ready. COVID came in, knocked us off course. We lost a whole tech partner in the process. Had to rebuild our entire holodeck from scratch. We had to figure out, well, okay, how are we going to make this in a safe, ethical way?
Caedon is a graduate of the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences and comes to us from Las Vegas, where he hosts his popular Twitch show called Caedon TV. He's a variety streamer with a large focus on World of Warcraft. He states in his bio that he plays a night elf hunter and a dark iron brewmaster. I'm still not quite sure what those are, but you got to check out his show. It's very entertaining, and it's all about helping people. His older brother Parker is a graduate in film production from Chapman University and has spent the last 10 years in Hollywood, designing motion graphics for the Grammy Awards, the Beatles' 50th anniversary show on CBS, directing award-winning virtual reality films, and he won the South Pacific Music Awards Video of the Year for a 3D virtual reality music video he directed for Red Bull with Auckland, New Zealand pop star Valette. Parker and Cade both worked on the Twitch premiere of InstaQuest, the mixed reality Dungeons & Dragons live stream that was the first production of its kind on Twitch. You can see a behind-the-scenes making of InstaQuest in the show notes. Well, we're really super proud of our boys, as you might imagine, and I am so happy they're here today to share their experiences and their insights on how you can use Twitch for your brand storytelling. Gents, welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
Great to be here, Dad.
Yep, it's so awesome. I'm so proud of both of you guys and the great work you're doing. You know, we have a family of artists, I guess is when we get right down to it. You know, I've been in the branding, marketing, advertising world for 35 years. Your mom, Michelle, has been an interior designer for many decades. Corbin, your sister, is over in San Diego with event design and production, and they have a really cool project going on right now. We got Parker, you in the film world, and Cade, you in the audio world. Now, out of my gigantic family of me and my 6 siblings, I'm the one of all of us that took more of that creative commerce route. So, what was it? Do you think it was your upbringing that finds both of you in the creative world, or what do you think it was?
Well, I would say definitely. I mean, just even growing up around a piano is huge for any sort of creative stimulus, you know, like, and as far as I can remember, you were always playing the piano. I'd be waking up Saturday morning and you'd be busting it out on the piano, and I think that plays a huge part in just the like I said, the creative stimulus of the young generation, truly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we got to play with cameras, and we had like one of the first computers on the block, that Mac Classic back in the day. And yeah, I had definitely a lot of flashbacks on this project to like that early, like 1996 computer programming that we were doing on that computer back in the day.
It was a HyperCard, Parker. I mean, this was before Cade was even born. And you were a very young guy, 5 or 6 years old, or maybe it was right after Cade had come into the world. We got that computer. And you were working on HyperCard, and you said that even some of the work that you did on HyperCard from way back when plays to what you do today in augmented reality and motion design.
Yeah, HyperCard was this funny little program that shipped with that classic. And you had one year for Christmas, you got me this funny little CD full of games on it that were all programmed in HyperCard. And I remember what I did is I somehow figured out how to hack into the code of these games and basically figure out how to make these games. And it's really funny because like as we were racing to finish up InstaQuest and this whole show, like I found myself having to hack through all these other programmers' code in order to get the thing done.
I mean, that was almost 30 years ago that you were working with that. And Cade, when you were growing up, you were the musician. I mean, you both took piano lessons. I don't remember, Parker, you taking drum lessons. Maybe you did, but Cade, you were drumming for a long time. You had a bass going. How much of your background in music has had an impact on what you're doing now in the audio world?
I mean, quite a bit. It's nice to be able to not only create my own music, but my own sound effects, and create my own soundscapes, my own worlds in the audio realm. It's very, very helpful. I mean, it just sets me that much farther apart from the next guy who's using stock music, stock sound effects, that sort of thing. It just it brings a level of I don't know, individualism, I suppose, and that's huge when you're trying to break out in a massive online market such as Twitch.
And you've done DJing through high school, and after you graduated, went to the Recording Arts of Science. What is it? Recording? Crafts Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences.
Yes, sir.
I graduated from there, working in studios and whatnot. Plus, you do your own producing of your own music. How would you classify your music?
I just classify it as electronic music. It's all made through basically Ableton on the computer, and I program my own sounds, my own drum machines, that sort of thing, and try to create my own sound essentially.
So you went the audio route in the work you're doing these days, and and hosting your own show on Twitch. Parker, you went more of the filmmaking route, having graduated from Chapman University and doing a lot of film production. And it was really cool from mom and dad's standpoint to see you guys coming together to work on InstaQuest when you launched it live on Twitch July 25th. What do you think, Parker, in your world helped prepare you for your movie making and what you guys did with InstaQuest on Twitch?
Sure. Well, one of the best things you can go and learn in school is film production, just because you are running a small crew of people and you are trying to make some big dreams happen. So from a business standpoint, figuring out how to get people to work together, how to find the right specialists. Even though I'm now working in the XR world, everything I learned in the filmmaking and everything that I've learned, especially at Chapman University, has become very, very helpful, because everything's just a different shade of it. We're not making a video anymore. We're making a live stream, but it has many of the same components. And so, it's all about figuring out, well, how far can I push these other players? How far can I push the lighting? Ultimately, this XR approach that we're doing is like filmmaking, but it's also mixing video game making, live theater, and also bringing in the streaming arts, which Cade helped us out a lot on.
Well, and as you guys were creating that production, Cade came in and moderated it. So that was really fun watching how that all went down. Before we get to InstaQuest, Cade, I want to talk first, about your show, Caedon TV, and if you can give us a little bit more of an insight into Twitch and how we can do it. But before you do that, what's the single craziest story you have about Parker growing up with him?
There's one that I'm told about, because I don't actually remember this one quite a bit. But but I don't know what year it was, maybe like 95, 96. I must have been a couple years old at most. And we were busting out the Christmas decorations and, getting the house all dolled up for the holidays. And I guess at one point Parker did something that made me mad, which doesn't surprise me as a little kid. He tended to do that quite a bit. But I picked up a snow globe and I figured, might as well chuck this at my brother and see what happens. But essentially, I hucked a full snow globe at my brother, hit him square in the forehead, and chaos ensued after the fact. And then it goes a little farther. I think how long, Dad, was it after that?
Well, that snow globe, Mom and I were in the kitchen and we heard this smash, wah, and we go out there and Parker was covered in water and snow because that snow globe had shattered on his head. And it was a year later, leading into Thanksgiving weekend, Parker had what looked like this giant, weird-looking pimple on his forehead. And I went out there. We'd even moved houses at this point, so it moved with him. And I went out in the back patio with him, and he was sitting there, and I started pushing on it, and sure enough, a chunk of snow globe came out of his forehead.
I remember when it happened, I went to Mom and Dad thinking, oh, Cade's going to be in so much trouble. And Dad's reaction was like, wow, didn't know he had it in him.
Look at the arm on that kid.
He hit him hard, man. Hit him hard. And Parker, what's one of your favorite crazy stories about Cade?
Uh-oh.
I remember coming home from hanging out with my friends in high school. And I remember Park running into my room and saying, hey, I got to go to the hospital. And I was like, what happened? You're like, oh, Cade hit a spray paint can with a hatchet.
Yeah, I sure did.
And all my friends were just dying laughing. They're like, yeah, that's Cade.
I forgot about the spray paint can with the hatchet. Cade was always exploring. Well, one of my favorites. I'll start with Cade, and then Parker, I'll hit yours up down the road. Cade, when you did the Napoleon Dynamite dance for the Hopi talent show, you brought the show down. So this was like a gigantic talent show that the entire Arcadian neighborhood looked forward to, and it ran 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row, and they had it over
3 days. Over
3 days,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And Napoleon Dynamite had come out like the year earlier, and you happened to have the same sort of physique and body of Napoleon, and you decided you were going to do that dance for it. You went down to your bedroom, and you, just like Napoleon, basically locked yourself in there for a week to learn that dance, and then you came out and got all dressed up right down to the snow boots and the whole thing, and went in. We had a Vote for Pedro shirt on you and the long jeans, and you went up, and you absolutely killed it. I mean, people would come, they would stop us in the store and say, your son, Napoleon Dynamite, what were you, in the 5th grade maybe when you did that?
Yeah, 2005, 5th grade.
It was marvelous. In fact, we'll put a link to the video in the show notes because it was a brilliant performance. And I remember even Parker was in high school at that time, and his buddies, or was it Corbin? I'm trying to keep all this straight.
I was in high school.
You were in high school, and your friends had heard about this, and all of a sudden, a whole bunch of the high schoolers showed up at the Hopi Talent Show to watch Cade in action. That was pretty powerful, pretty cool.
I remember every performance I gave, I'd look out to the crowd, and it was like bigger and bigger every night. And I was, oh, geez, just really had to dial it up every other performance. It just kept getting more intense.
Well, maybe you're gonna have to go the Sushi Dragon route and do some dancing on stream.
Oh, there's clips of it already.
Oh, really? Have they pulled up your Napoleon Dynamite show?
Oh no, there's been a few times where I've had to dance on stream, and they like to clip it so that it's immortalized on the internet.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about that, Cade. So you began Caedon TV back in, was it September of last year?
Yes, sir. And
you started with 0 viewers, and now you're well over 3,000.
Well, I wouldn't say 3,000 viewers. I mean, I've got just about 3,500 followers. So people who, have come in and reacted with my channel and to some extent liked what I've had to put out there. But right now, my average is anywhere from like 20 to 30 viewers, somewhere in there. You got to start small. It's like anything else, you put some work into it, you grow, and sooner or later, you make it or you break it.
Why did you decide to start a show on Twitch?
I decided to start streaming on Twitch just because I like video games a lot and I like helping people. And I found that I can merge the two with Twitch. I can create my own positive user experience on my own channel with my own rules. And if people like what I'm about, they can hang out. If not, they can go on to the next one. And through that, I've gained a small but mighty following of really loyal, awesome, positive, just helpful people that are always in the stream. They're always there hanging out. They're at this point welcoming new people who are coming in, and they're just helping me grow exponentially. Having a platform to help people and play games is just like a perfect mix of my two worlds.
And how do you help them?
Well, however they need, really. I mean, some people just need a laugh. Some people just need to come in and watch someone dirtle around in a video game for a little bit. Some people just need to have some viewer interaction. A lot of people use Twitch because they like the interaction they get with the streamer. They like being able to go in and type a message in the chat, and then the person that they're watching reads the chat and responds to them. That makes a lot of people's days. Just something as simple as just responding to a message. And so me being able to be in that position for a lot of people is really important to me, because when I make people feel good, I feel good. And it's just, you could see it right there in the chat.
So let's talk a little bit about how you would define what Twitch is as a channel, because me, from being the older guy here, I think, well, you can do all this live streaming on Facebook. You can do it on Instagram, or not Instagram, but LinkedIn. And you can do it in different areas. What is Twitch? How is it different? And what makes it special for this particular kind of audience?
Twitch is essentially a platform for anyone who wants to go on and interact with other people online. It used to be a platform for just gamers, where gamers could go and they could play their game, and then other people who play the same game could go and watch. But it sort of evolved over the years as some of these gamers started to stream their real life content. They'd just maybe go around their house or out in public. They started to develop a market for what's called IRL, which is in real life streaming, which is just going out and doing your thing.
At one time, with the whole COVID thing, the strip was all shut down, and you did something with that.
I had heard that the Las Vegas Strip was almost completely vacant. They had pretty much closed all the businesses, all the casinos, everything was pretty much completely shut down. And so I just wanted to go check it out. So one day I took my phone, which, I can stream live to Twitch from my phone these days. So I took my phone down to the strip, took my skateboard, and I just went to see what I could see. And that was about nothing, because there was hardly anybody on the road. There was nobody walking around. The place was a ghost town. I was able to skate anywhere I wanted without having to, dodge and weave in between people. And it was just madness, because you think about Las Vegas, you think about the strip, and you think about all the lights and the casinos and the sounds and the people and just the spectacle. And to have none of that there, it was eerie. It was spooky, truly.
You had, I think, told me, characterized it as kind of like being in a video game yourself, and you were boarding the strip where no one else was around.
Yeah, it was kind of like I just loaded into like a Las Vegas map, but I was the only player there. It was just, I was literally the only one around for quite some time. And then, of course, I found a little, underground, I guess you'd call it a bar. There's just kind of some guys slinging some beers out of their restaurant. And, so naturally I got a beer and, skated around.
And the whole time you were streaming this, so what were some of the reactions of your followers?
Well, I mean, they were all blown away. I mean, I had a few people in my chat at the time who had also lived in Vegas and had heard that the strip was closed down, but they hadn't gone down there themselves. So through my stream, they were able to actually check that out. And that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, everyone just couldn't believe it.
So if someone was thinking about getting on Twitch, and of course our listeners are mostly business people, marketers, and maybe, some gamers out there too, what would you say are some of the best practices if somebody wanted to start up their own Twitch channel? What would you recommend that they do?
Well, the biggest thing that transcends all content, anything outside of the logistics of your channel itself, is just staying consistent. Find what you want to do. And that might change, down the road. But initially, find what you want to bring to Twitch, find what you want to stream, and then just relentlessly stream that. Just stay consistent, be there at the same times, the same days. And soon enough, the people who are on Twitch all the time will see that consistency and they'll start to pop in. And those are the people you want, the people who are always on Twitch, because that's just another person you always have in your channel.
How often do you broadcast? Stream, I guess I should. The old man's calling it broadcast, but it's streaming.
Every day, definitely. Some days I've gone up to 17 hours streaming from night to night.
Nonstop, huh?
Essentially nonstop. I mean, that's not ever going to be 17 hours without leaving my seat, of course. There's breaks to get up and stretch and get food and all of these things. But yeah, I mean, I try to spend pretty much as much time as I can creating content, streaming on Twitch, again, for the consistency, so that people see my name there and they keep coming back.
What were some of the hardest things about streaming on Twitch that you found that maybe you didn't anticipate until you got into doing it?
Well, I mean, just the sheer number of Twitch channels there are alone is a hurdle to overcome. You kind of have to know that you're a drop in the bucket. You got to get over streaming to 1, 2, 3 people for hours. My first month or two of streaming was some days I'd do a whole 6 to 8 hour stream and have one person pop in all day. And that's, after a while, that can get demoralizing. But if you push through that, you keep growing yourself and your content, and you kind of learn and you evolve, you can definitely attract more people. You just got to push through those first early moments where it feels like, man, is this even worth it? Because nobody talking to me all day, and then if you do that enough, that can definitely stack up.
Yeah. So you were committed to it.
Well, even like you had an experience one time where you went to the airport and you're just like, I'm going to stream from this bar. And then someone bought you a beer online.
Yeah. I mean, not even a beer. I mean, the guy donated me. He gave me $50. He said, "Hey man, I'm having a beer. Let's have a beer. Let's have a beer together." And so he sent me $50. Off I went.
You were at McCarran Airport flying down for Christmas, as I recall.
Yeah.
And we're hanging out up there. And so you just happened to be streaming from the bar, and the guy popped in and said, "Hey, let's have a beer together." And he bought you more than a beer, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, that guy, he's been in my channel since like the first month I started streaming. He's been very, very supportive. And I mean, almost every stream he's there. And having people like that really, really helps. Getting a couple of those people in your chat doesn't make the day feel as long. And then you can focus more on just being happy and having fun with the content.
Well, speaking of having fun with it, I remember we had you all into Phoenix for an early Christmas this year. The very first time we celebrated Christmas, not on Christmas Day. It was about a week early. So you were back in your Vegas apartment on Christmas Day, and you did something really interesting with your stream and fun. Can you tell us about that?
On Christmas, I had the whole day to stream. I had it wide open. I was back from the holidays. Everything that we celebrated was the week prior, as Park just said. And so I had the whole day, and I was just thinking, what can I do today to provide, a special experience for maybe someone who doesn't have so much to do today, or, somebody who's maybe just lonely, needs a friend, or some goofy person in their life to maybe just cheer them up a bit. And so what I did is I went down a day or two prior, and I picked up a wig, a big brown afro wig. And I just, put on a button-up shirt and kind of took down the top couple buttons. And I got a little paint set and a bottle of Jack Daniels. And I just went on the stream and I acted like Bob Ross. And for about 12 hours, I acted like Bob Ross while I played World of Warcraft. And I painted little scenes from World of Warcraft for the viewers.
Bob Ross from the PBS days, the artist on PBS.
Yeah, painting happy little trees. Absolutely.
You still owe me that first painting too, by the way.
I've got it.
You promised that to me.
I've got all 3 of them right here.
You've got to send a picture of it. Yeah. That's awesome. All right, let's move on. By the way, where can people find your show, Cade?
So you can find me at twitch.tv/Caedon, Caedon TV.
All right, so we have Caedon TV, your host, Caedon Howell here. Now let's move over to InstaQuest, the big production that Parker created with his crew, and Cade cruised out to L.A. and was the moderator on. It aired live, the premiere of it, on Saturday, July 25th, as I recall, about a 3-hour production. live streaming of Dungeons and Dragons, but it was much more than a few folks sitting around a table rolling some dice and playing Dungeons and Dragons. Parker, you guys pulled this together. Can you give us a bit of the backstory and how maybe this was a bit of a pioneering effort online, let alone on Twitch?
Sure. Well, with the rise of Twitch and all these streaming services, all sorts of different kinds of gameplay have really come to the forefront. Dungeons and Dragons is one that really surprised a lot of people with how many people are actually really interested in the content. But we were looking at some of the streams that were out there with Dungeons and Dragons, and we just felt like it was a little sparse compared to everything else that was going on. Like everyone else is playing a video game. There's all this things blowing up and people leveling up and all these pieces. And then you'd look at the D&D streams and it's really just a bunch of nerds sitting around a table. You know, no offense to nerds.
Well, and real quick on Dungeons and Dragons, I mean, it is a role-playing, somewhat board game that came out of the 1970s, I guess. I remember when I was in high school, people were playing it. I never played it. Did you guys, Caedon and Parker, did you guys ever play Dungeons and Dragons in high school, or was that just passé because everything else was full motion animated, video games?
We played Magic the Gathering growing up. That was really our closest thing that we played. I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons till 5 or 6 years ago when the producers of the show had a birthday party where we all played D&D. And I was blown away by how amazing and how creative it is, how it lets people co-create in a way that really not a lot of other things do in life. Like you've got the dungeon masters leading the quest, but also the players playing the game are all simultaneously writing their own epic fantasy novel together. So just the ability to bring that level of co-creativity to a game, I haven't seen anything else like it.
Yeah, Kate, did you ever play it before?
Yeah. I've had a decent amount of experience with different. They call them campaigns. That's basically where you get your group, you get your dungeon master, then say you're 4 players, and then that's your campaign. You go and you're with the same group, whether you play every week, other week. I've been in 4 or 5 different campaigns at this point, and some of which have gone on for months. They can span over years, even if you have the consistency and you are able to gather in a relatively small time frame. You could go years with the same character, and I think that's really cool. It's just always a continuation.
So Parker, you saw this D&D happening online and on Twitch, but you thought it was like a little bit lackluster compared to other things that are happening, or what made you guys jump into full production mode, because this was a pretty large production?
Looking at the D&D that was out there, again, it was mostly like radio. It was mostly theater of the mind, and the players that were really having a lot of success with it were voice actors. And so we were looking at it and we were going, well, what if we brought some visual flair to it? Having worked in the XR, virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality space for the past few years, I was getting more and more interested in the role that video game engines were using, not just for video games, but also for film and television, rendering out things live, changing environments and all these things live that Hollywood was starting to do with Unreal Engine. And so when I looked at it all, I was like, well, how crazy would it be, if we're going to go in and we're going to use this wild projection mapping technology, why don't we just use it as a video game too? And why don't we program all the pieces that the dungeon master is going to be playing with, and let's just put them into a digital world and let's let them play the game. And as we realized that we could do that, we're like, well, if we want to push this as far as it can go, let's do it live.
So you got a studio during COVID, opened it up, and had to put a lot of safety measures in place because you had a crew of well over 20 people producing this?
Yeah, we had, 25 or so people on set. Essentially, COVID came in, right when we were about ready to go. We had our talent lined up. We had everything ready. COVID came in, knocked us off course. We lost a whole tech partner in the process. Had to rebuild our entire holodeck from scratch. And we had to figure out, well, okay, how are we going to make this in a safe, ethical way? How do we let the people who are watching this at home know that it's safe? We ended up finding a new studio that had just really a really clean studio with state-of-the-art filtration system and people who were just committed to cleanliness. And basically what we had to do is I went in with our talent and I sat them all down on a Zoom call and I said, hey, listen, guys, we're going to have this production and I know that we're going to need to sit next to each other in order to make this show work. So what can we do to all come together and decide for ourselves to take care of our own health, not just in how we behave on set, but also how we live, in the weeks leading up to it. And so we all sat down and we came together as a team. We said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to have masks, but we're going to make the masks part of the story. That's where our Dungeon Master, Jobo, came up with the idea of the miasma, the plague that's spread across the land that's turning people into zombies and making them go crazy. We brought in our stylist, Kamala Mathis, who I've worked with for years now, to come in and design these epic post-apocalyptic Burning Man-esque masks for our talent. And yeah, we just wrote it into the story. And the more that it became a part of the story, the more that I actually really liked it, so long as we could still hear them and understand them. And, we did all of our tests on that to make sure that that wasn't a problem.
Most people on Twitch are streaming from their home or studio or arcade like you do from your apartment, and you've got some cool gadgetry there that you're able to bring in to have some fun with the green screen and so forth. This production of InstaQuest was much larger. So it was like a Hollywood production live plugged into the Twitch channel. So you had 4 robotic cameras. You were shooting people from the table of players from 2 different sides. So I guess I'm not doing a very good job. Can you sort of explain the production studio you guys had put together to pull this off?
It was important for us that the talent be able to see and hear and react with everything that was going on in this game, as well as sit next to each other. Because ultimately, again, that's what that Dungeons and Dragons is about. It's about people coming together in a small group for problem solving. How it worked is every camera that we used in our live stream broadcast also had a camera inside of this video game engine digital world that we'd created. All the cameras matched these cameras, and then every camera that was in the digital world also had a projection map screen in the physical world. You can get a shot where we look over the shoulders of the players as they stand before the giant spider queen that they're about to fight. And as the barbarian picks up his mighty axe and swings it at the spider queen, we are programming the game and we're hitting the button so that the queen gets hit by this thing, sparks come out and it reacts and ultimately falls down and dies, based off listening to the Dungeon Master say it. So we had, again, 4 cameras, 3 different screens. If you look in front of the players, you can see the world. If you look behind them, you can see the world. And if you look off to the side, you can see the world behind the Dungeon Master. And as they progress through this world, all 3 of those screens are moving simultaneously, as well as foreground elements that are projected on top of that and digitally.
So you have all of this Hollywood magic going on. I mean, a pretty impressive production. Cade, you came in as the moderator because it really all doesn't matter unless you have that interaction happening and you're able to pull off the production, fairly seamlessly. So from a moderator standpoint, Cade, what did you experience that maybe was different or surprising than what you've seen on Twitch in how people were interacting with this particular production?
Well, real quick, too, we should probably explain what a moderator is, right?
They're a watchdog. If you're too ingrained in your game or something and somebody comes in your chat and they start being hateful or mean or whatever, you have moderators there who can be like, oh, okay, that guy's no good. Ban him, mute him, whatever you need to do to make sure that guy's not doing what he's doing so that the streamer can focus on the gameplay and not have to go into the technical. Essentially, they're just like a technical assistant for the streamer, essentially.
A technical assistant, and you're also kind of a host. And,
Yeah, certainly. In this way, with InstaQuest, I played the moderator and I felt more like a host than anything else. I mean, I was just there. If people were coming in and they were saying, oh, this looks awesome, I would just tag them in my response, just say, oh, hey, I'm glad you like it, or welcome to the channel, or just basically welcoming people in, letting them know that we're here and we're trying to make something happen. And a huge part of success on Twitch is that user interaction. I mean, that's what separates someone from going to YouTube and just watching a video. That's the reason they go to Twitch, is so they get that interaction with the production. And so my role was just to go in and make sure, one, that, the chat was okay. People weren't being rude or trolling, anything like that, which there was almost nothing there was no actions that I needed to take as a moderator. That's, banning, muting, anything like this. I didn't need to touch any of that, because literally everybody in there, minus like one guy, said positive comments. There was like one guy who was like a little hypercritical, but even he wasn't rude about it. He wasn't, being a jerk. He was just saying like, I think his comment was something like, this would be better with more experienced Dungeons and Dragons players, because I guess some of the talent hadn't actually played before. But that's okay, because that's what you get with a new campaign. Sometimes you get a few seasoned warriors, and sometimes you get a noob who needs to be shown the ropes. And so there was one guy who said, I think this could be better in this way. But other than that, it was just all positive. There was people who were loving it. There was fans of the different talent that were brought in, and all of them loved, their streamers, the people they were rooting for. And people just overwhelmingly had an amazing positive experience.
How many viewers did you have?
I think we had something like 1,500 total impressions, and we had 400 for the good part of it. We did do we rolled credits and then did an encore at the end. So we lost a little people in between the encore. We ended up like above 250 average, which is pretty good for a first stream.
I was going to say, what was your goal?
So our goal was to get 1,000 total viewers. And so we ended up, I think, 1,500 or 1,600.
Cade, from the interaction with those, because to me, from the branding standpoint, there just seems like there is so much opportunity for Twitch in a program like this to be able to do product placement and programming and so forth. Did you see, Cade, from your host moderator position, people interacting with this particular program differently than maybe what you've seen them interacting with other typical Twitch streams?
Definitely other Twitch streams in general, but even further than that, like Dungeons and Dragons streams, like Parker was saying, typically you go to a Dungeons and Dragons stream on Twitch and it's just like 4 people hanging out around a table, and it's, just kind of there's some pieces of paper, it's some pencils and some dice on the table, and you kind of really have to be with the story and the people at that point. But if you look at what InstaQuest has done with Dungeons and Dragons, I mean, that's like a whole nother level. I mean, that is viewer interaction to like the nth degree. Like they even had polls on there. So they, at different times, they'd say, all right, if you're in the Twitch chat, what's going to happen next to the adventurers? Do you want them to fight the boss here or the minions first? And then the viewers actually had an interactive poll that they could, type a command in and see which one, won out. And the boss won out, of course. And so that was the first enemy that came out. And the Twitch chat loved the ability to be able to throw in their hat into the ring and kind of really feel like they were adding something to the experience. And I think that is something that sets Dungeons and Dragons Twitch stream apart.
Yeah, it was really great. We had a lot of like XR enthusiasts in the stream, and a lot of people were asking Cade, well, how the hell do they do this? And so, and also people coming in midway through, they're looking at it and they're going, what is this? And Cade's just like, oh, this is what it is. And just like having that level of being able to talk right to the audience, I mean, it's priceless. I had originally thought, it's like, well, we need Cade in case racists show up to kick him out. But, it was only after watching him, and do all the interactions with all the people and lead the conversations that I really realized how much value was brought to the table. And like he's saying with those Twitch polls, to let the people at home be a part of the journey, to let them have that interactivity, like that's really what it's all about. That really is the magic of what these next level streaming services are offering. Someone used the metaphor, you're watching the Super Bowl and you get to see the world from Tom Brady's perspective, but you also get to chat with him and say, hey, why don't you throw the Hail Mary? It's that level of interactivity that is what really drives the people.
So the production of InstaQuest was pretty impressive. And Cade, I know you saw that with the people asking how they do this and how they do that online. The lighting was beautiful. The camera work, your good buddy Will Walsh of Willpower Cinema pulled that off. Let's talk quickly about the animation, because you had a library of how many different animation assets did you have in there, and how in the world did you create them in time for this first round of production?
Sure. So, with regard to the InstaQuest world, the players are going through this fantasy world, and friends and enemies both show up in the world, and digitally. These are digital characters that are coming in, and we basically programmed a system where we would take these libraries of motion capture data of people talking, crying, fighting, casting spells. And we built a whole system that basically allows us to go in and take one mesh of a knight, or a mesh of a zombie. And as long as the bone structure and everything's there, then we set up our hotkeys for, okay, what's this guy going to do? Okay, this guy's going to do zombie attacks and he's going to try and eat you. And okay, this other guy over here is just going to come out and talk to you and maybe hand you a potion. So I don't know. I mean, we probably pulled from a library of like 2,000 different individual motion capture. Basically, motion capture, for people who don't know, is they put the little ping pong suit on the guy, and the guy does the animation, and you track it live with a myriad of different cameras, and you take that data into the animations digitally. Yeah, we just had to develop a whole system for how do you go through this world? What are the people that you're going to interact with most likely to do? And how do we then make it so that the XR programmer, who's sweating bullets for 3 hours trying to hit all the right keystrokes at the right times to make it happen, how do we make it as simple as possible for him so that he knows what to press right at the right moment when the dungeon master says, and the spider queen shoots a sticky web at you?
What was your biggest concern going into the actual live production? You're counting down 3, 2, 1, we're live. What did you think was going to be your biggest Achilles heel that could blow up the whole thing?
Well, the biggest Achilles heel going into it was the coordination of all the pieces involved. 3 projectors, 4 cameras, lighting director, 3 XR specialists, technical director, audio engineer, music DJ, and graphics engineer are all happening all at once, all pressing keystrokes. They're all totally manipulating the reality around them, all listening to the dungeon master and listening to me on a walkie-talkie, basically kind of talking them through what happens next. And if the guy pulls out his pistol and shoots that pistol and anyone on the team misses it, well, that's a miss. It's live. There's no going back to get it. So everyone has to be on the ready at all times to make it happen. I drew up, a few months back, this whole crazy technical stack of data flows, and this is where the cameras are going to go here, and this is where the audio goes here, and this is where the XR is going to go to this switcher, but it's also going to this projector, and like the whole data flow of the thing just looked crazy on paper. But I looked at it, I was like, that's it. That's what we're building. And so we went out there on Friday the 24th to build it and do a live rehearsal without talent.
And that's Friday the 24th of July?
24th of July, and the show's the 25th at 1 p.m. So we had half a day to build, half a day and a few hours in the morning to rehearse and run it. And, a lot of people are going, well, why don't you run it with the talent? I was like, because the talent doesn't know. The talent has to come into this completely unaware of where this journey is going to go, because that's the whole point of the show. The first audience is the talent. The 4 cosplayers, Twitch streamers, stars of the show, that's what all this production's for. And then the second audience is the people at home watching it. I basically knew Murphy's Law, something was going to break down on the 24th. How do I set up all my plan Bs so that when something breaks down, we have what we need to fix it? After we ran it the first time on the 24th, total chaos, total madness, we said, okay, let's reset, let's do it again. And the second time we ran it through was when I knew. I was like, oh man, this thing's going to work. Because the second time through, the lighting guy's hitting his cues. The XR people are doing everything they need to do. Music's coming in, we're balancing all the right audio. As soon as it was halfway decent on Friday, I was like, okay, we're going to be able to get this there for Saturday. And honestly, by the time Saturday came around and we went live, I didn't have any anxiety. I knew that it was going to work. I knew that the talent was great. And at a certain level, as the director, it's like, there's nothing I can do. It's out of my hands. I'm making some calls on a walkie-talkie. And when there was a microphone problem, we threw to graphics, and I ran in with some scissors and our stylist to cut the chains off a girl's face mask that were hitting the mic. Other than that, you kind of do all the preparation for the moment, and then the moment is there, and you kind of let go, and it's now everyone else's baby.
I know we were watching it up in Flagstaff, up at the Walsh's cabin. I was thinking, oh my goodness, is something as basic as audio going to sink this production? But you guys got through it.
What basically happened is we did our audio run through of it, and then somehow the talent ended up with an earring after that wasn't there in the run through. And so the earring was hitting her Madonna mic. And yeah, it's just like, okay, here's our moment where we coordinate. Here's that moment where the "we'll be right back" graphic's going to come in. And so I'm on one channel of the walkie telling the team, okay, get ready to throw that graphic. On the other channel, I'm in the Dungeon Master's ear, and I'm saying, hey, tell them we'll be right back for technical difficulties. So Dungeon Master makes his call. They switch over to graphics. We run in there with some scissors, and we cut the mask, and we pull the earring off. And 20 seconds later, we're back up and running, and it sounds great.
Tell us quickly about the talent that you brought in, because as Cade said earlier, some of the people are going like, oh man, I wish they had more seasoned D&D players in here. But that's really not what you were going for with this first round, was it?
With regards to criticism and people's thoughts, one dude on the internet saying something doesn't really mean much to me. It's just, it sticks in everyone's head, including the other producers. I'm like, okay, just remember, this is one dude on the internet. Our stars were seasoned. They were seasoned Dungeons and Dragons players. They were. We had one star who's Sushi Dragon, who was his first time playing Dungeons and Dragons. But like Cade said earlier, that's a part of Dungeons and Dragons, is teaching the newbie, is teaching the new guy how it's going to go. Even when I was looking at it from his standpoint, I was like, even if he doesn't get everything right and they're correcting him or whatever, I'm like, that's access for people at home to get to learn. We want InstaQuest to be true to D&D for the hardcore fans, but we also are trying to make something that is, more palatable, more interesting for people who don't have any experience with D&D. So having someone who is their access point to that, more power to it.
Who else did you have on there?
So our stars were the Sushi Dragon, Stefan. I think of his as the most creative Twitch stream out there, because he's got this whole crazy tech stack on his arms and controllers and dials that he's playing with. And he's basically somewhere between a live talk show and a live psychedelic music video that he's producing with all these gadgets that he's created. I just am so fascinated with what he's doing as one person. We got to have this guy on the show. He's got the charisma. He's got the XR angle. Our other big Twitch streamer was the zombie unicorn, Natalie Casanova. Very outspoken activist, kind of a talk show type personality person who's just, I thought was very dynamic and very interesting to listen to and had a great following. Our other two cast members were big in the cosplay world, big Instagram stars. And we actually found them last year when we were shooting our test shoot for InstaQuest. They came in their own cosplay gear. They were all decked out. It was them. It was a total of 8 cosplayers that we tested the game out, 2 different groups of 4. And of those players, we ended up saying, hey, we want to keep some people from this core group. I mean, a lot of those players were really great, but these 2 especially had a certain flair. And we felt like the overall team that we created with the 4 players was really nice. You've got the Sushi Dragon being the mad scientist, balanced by Alex Drastel being the barbarian with a bit of a kind of English proper accent to him, which it's funny in retrospect. I was like, hey, those are my spirit animals, the mad scientist and the barbarian. And then Darth Lexi being this wonderful bard who's all about nature and health. And if you upset the natural world, she'll freak out and turn into this Jekyll and Hyde type character, with Natalie being a halfling ranger. I think they did a really amazing job of of making something entertaining for 3 hours, which is like no small feat. And
what do you think, Cade, when it was all said and done? I don't know what you were expecting when you went out there, but having been then the new guy on the block in there, they had all been producing it. You saw it for the first time. You were one of the rehearsal players to get them up and running, and then to see it actually be pulled off. What did you like about it? What even could be improved, do you think?
I didn't really know exactly what I was going to be doing or looking at per se. And so when I showed up to this studio with all these people running around and this whole major setup going on, it really gave me confidence that what we were working on was something truly special. And I mean, it absolutely was. There's not been a Twitch stream like that. I mean, not even close. The amount of just planning and production and the lighting, the costumes, everything just came together so well at that final moment. And then it pretty much went off without a hitch. And like I said, I haven't seen a Twitch stream like it. So that being their first show, I have a lot of high hopes for the future.
And what does the future look like, Parker? What's next for InstaQuest?
So yeah, right now we're looking for financing partners, platforms that can help us pay for the budget, sponsors that can make it happen. We're looking to try and produce a full first season of the show is the next steps. And what I'd really like to do with the show is make it a bit of my own XR laboratory. There's so many different fun, interesting new technologies that are out there that we can really bring right into the show. Bringing in motion capture suits, letting people get to play the digital characters live, finding new ways to let the audience at home interact with it. And so, yeah, I just look at it as something that, we pulled off this first episode in a big way, and I'd just like to build upon it and make it more interesting and more exciting going forward.
All right, wrap with one question for the both of you. Cade, you first. If somebody wants to start off and get going on Twitch with their own channel, what would you recommend that they do?
I'd say the number one thing I can recommend is find the content that you really enjoy making, the thing that you really like, that's you really want to share with the world, and then just consistently put it out there. Just, spend the hours, the weeks, the months, just putting it out there and seeing what comes of it.
Awesome. Parker, what about you? If someone wants to jump on Twitch, have their own branded channel, what would you recommend?
For a lot of people, I just tell them to do what it is that you already love. I keep telling Kamala and Siri that with their live stream yoga show, they need to be on Twitch. They need to be interactive, talking to people, helping this younger generation grow and heal and become strong. And so, yeah, that's what I would say for people who want to, dive into the media world is just do something that you already love. If it's video games, it's video games. If it's yoga, if it's using this technology to do something that no one's ever done before, just go for it.
Well, guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate you taking the time. I love you both. I'm proud of the great work you're both doing out there and for sharing with our listeners, what Twitch is all about and some interesting ways to approach that channel. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thanks, Dad.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all for listening to this edition of The Business of Story. If you liked what you heard, feel free to share this with friends, family, colleagues, or anyone you know that might be interested in starting their own Twitch channel. And check out Cade at Caedon TV. Caedon, give me that URL again. It's twitch.what?
Twitch.tv/Caedon, and which is CAEDON, and then TV at the end there.
Awesome. And Parker, give us the InstaQuest.
Twitch.com/InstaQuest. InstaQuest.
That's twitch.tv.
Twitch.tv/InstaQuest, baby.
Nice catch, Cade. Thank you. Thank you
the
all for
.com
listening.
will get you there.
But you can't interact on the .com. Now I am totally confused. We got to start this interview all over again. But thanks again. And if I can be of service to you, check me out over at businessofstory.com, where I have tools, tips, techniques to help you craft and tell compelling stories that sell, including my new book, Brand Bewitchery, which you can buy now on Amazon, print Kindle version, And they tell me it's about ready to go live on Apple Books, or will be live by the time this show airs. And I also have the complimentary online course tutorial that you can take to dial in your brand story and teaches you how to tell that. It works beautifully with the book. You can find that at businessofstory.thinkific.com. And until next week, when we have 2 or 1 or 3 more amazing story artists here, like Caedon and Parker Howell, remember that the most potent story you'll ever tell is a story you tell yourself. So make it a great one. Thanks for listening.
There it is.
Bam. Beautiful.